So now we fast forward to January 2009. At this point, the US and Japan sign a military treaty to better fight the Legion. Essentially, Japan's just calling in reinforcements here. So, of course, though, the US can't do anything without getting their dick in it. So, one of the first things they do is they take back Legion corpses to America for research and study.
Wow, what a terrible idea!
Yep.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, we have this 100% fatal and communicable disease. Better bring it into our country. America!
Yeah, so that's kind of the start of how it starts spreading worldwide. But anyway, in Japan, with the combined forces of the SDF and the US Army, they do start winning against Legion. But at this point, they just decide that because it's, as far as we can tell, a limitless number of Legion are coming out of Shinjuku, they just decide they're gonna nuke it. So, yeah, they just kind of nuke the entire city. That happens.
Okay.
And of course, it was the bomb was dropped on August 6th. It was a coincidence, but it comes to be known as the second Hiroshima tragedy.
Great.
And, at that point, it becomes the tipping point for more atomic attacks, and, Japan as a whole just kind of becomes totally scorched earth.
Man, I'm bushed.
But hey, they totally wiped out the Legion in Japan, guys. It was worth it.
Hooray!
Until February 2010, at which point Legion is spotted in China. And it pretty much just kind of accelerates from there.
Yeah, so all that salt that fell off of the Great Grotesquerie, I think her name was?
Something like that.
It's magic salt, and you can't defeat magic with conventional weapons. No, all those nukes just kind of scattered all that salt to the winds.
Oh boy.
Oh my god. So, yeah, at this point, Red Eye is confirmed to still be alive. Deaths and legions are appearing worldwide. The chaos is accelerating. So, June of 2010. Research on Angelus's body has at this point proved the multiple world theory, which, you know, is kind of a given that we went from the Drakengard world into the real world, but, you know, as far as they're concerned...
They had other things on their mind. Maybe research slowed down a whole bunch.
But this is essentially the cause of what's going on. The intrusion from the other world reveals the existence of particles that should not exist, and those particles are what cause white chlorination syndrome and everything. They're ultimately called Maso.
Called what?
M-A-S-O, Maso.
Okay.
And physical attacks like heat, nuclear energy, you cannot destroy Maso. So, as you said, the shocks of all the nuclear attacks and everything, that spread it throughout the world. But it can be transmitted through bodily fluids and everything, so it's basically, at this point, an airborne disease that got spread throughout the entire world.
Good job, America. You're the best.
So in October 2011, there's another attack on the research facility. Angelus's body is, at that point, missing. And reporting becomes unclear and then stops completely. So the dragon's body is at this point gone. Nobody knows where that is. So there is no further research into the whole split worlds thing.
I don't remember where I'm supposed to go.
What's up?
The Lost Shrine, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, for the first key piece?
Yes, that's right. I have to climb all the way back up. Oh my god, I have to climb again?
Don't worry, we have story time.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, we have story time, alright. So, that's kind of the backstory, how white chlorination syndrome spread, where it came from, and the disappearance of Angelus's body. And that brings us to March 2014, which is the start of the Gestalt project. Which, as we know, is to separate our souls from our body as in an effort to stop white chlorination syndrome. However, this ties in, though, with the Maso, as you can probably guess, because they use it to absorb energies from other worlds and create something from nothing, which is what they formally call magic. Great job, guys. You invented magic.
It only took magical salt from another universe.
I mean, to be fair, that's pretty much how I would expect it to go.
Yeah, basically.
Anyway, so as it turns out, most people are not okay with ripping out your soul and kind of like storing it away for later. And the Gestalt process is extremely unpopular. However, in February of 2016, they develop a medicine that can be used to stop the process of white chlorination syndrome. So finally, at this point, 13 years after the fact, we finally have a medicine. You get one guess what this is called.
Pass.
No, it's not called pass.
No, it's called Luciferase.
That was not going to be my guess.
But yeah, they're not even trying to be subtle about that.
Like Luciferase?
Yeah. Here, I'll put it in the chat real quick. You can see.
And for those of you watching the recorded episode later, I will put it on screen right now.
Apparently it's a real thing.
Tell us more about this real thing.
From Wiki, Luciferase is a generic term for the class of oxidative enzymes that produce bioluminescence and is usually distinguished from a photoprotein.
Huh. It's a thing that makes you glow. That's cool.
Okay, so you need to start glowing to counteract the to not turn into salt. Go figure.
I mean, that seems pretty straightforward to me. All you have to do is start producing your own light, and then you'd be fine.
Seems legit.
Anyway, so with Luciferase, they now have a tool to stop white chlorination syndrome. And this leads to them establishing, essentially, they call them crusades. But they're essentially military squads that are immune, and they use those people to really fight against the legions.
I'm almost disappointed.
Is this when they discover what kind of person has the highest compatibility with the Luciferase?
Yeah! So in May, they start forming these military squads. By December, they found out that Luciferase is most effective in young patients. Children with high physical ability are given preference in its administration. So, the 5th Crusade is formed. It is mainly teenagers.
I see.
You know, just in case you didn't think we were going there. Anyway, so in 2018, the National Weapons Laboratory is founded with the purpose of using research on Maso to create weapons. its primary objective is to experiment on human beings to create more powerful humans. So you get 3 guesses what that particular lab produced.
Emil's sister?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's still 2018, guys. We can stop this.
I mean, so long as magical salt doesn't rain down upon the world, we don't need to go through with this.
I mean, what makes you think it hasn't already happened?
Good point. I don't know everything about what goes on behind closed doors.
Or giant walls, as the case may be.
Wait, giant walls?
Yeah.
Who are these guys?
Certainly not your garden variety shades.
The infection was originally
I'm not alluding to that.
Accursed
Oh.
shades again.
Anyway, after this point, things just it's kind of a stalemate for a few years. In 2019, there's just this kind of like a big, they continue to do battle, no one really remains on top, there's no better methods of fighting them. So, things just kind of slowly deteriorate. By 2023, the, capitalism has happened, and the gap between the rich and the poor and just slums are everywhere, and essentially the economy across the world has fallen apart. And that brings us to January 2025, and research on replicantization.
Good enough.
Quintization, maybe? I don't know.
But anyway, that's pretty much exactly what you think it is. It's this is where they start developing the vessels for gestaltized humans. So that, hey, you can live on, and you don't have to deal with the whole white chlorination syndrome thing anymore. However, in June 2026, there is a critical accident at the National Weapons Laboratory, and experiment number 6, it runs amok. An emergency plan to seal off experiment number 7 is implemented. You might remember that Emil's sister is weapon number 6, and that he is weapon number 7. So, this is the point at which Emil and them have officially entered the story.
Okay, so at this point, Emil is still human.
Yes.
Yes.
Using Maso and experimenting in humans has shown to be dangerous, and Project Stalls, basically at this point, it starts getting wound down just because it's been shown to be not effective and not safe at all.
Okay.
So, 2030. Red Eye is defeated in Jerusalem by the leader of the 13th Crusade. So we have now gone through 12 generations of child soldiers?
I want you to...
Big Boss would be proud.
Look, I'm sorry.
Somebody would be proud.
Sorry for what?
I'm going to talk to the...
But anyway, so with Red Eye... with Red Eye officially dead,
It's no big
white chlorination syndrome continues to spread, but the Legion kind of falls apart at this point.
Shouldn't be.
So,
And it needs to change.
you know,
I wish everyone felt the same way.
Pyrrhic victory.
It's alright, really. I like camping out with Kaine.
Anyway, and then from there we kind of just accelerate into the actual NieR bit.
Fire.
February 2032, replicants are revealed to the public, and certain upper class people start getting gestaltized.
Come aside.
More and more people slowly begin to accept it. You know, everybody starts. And that basically the replicant system at this point just kind of moves on and just kind of takes over everything. Really, the only other thing of note there is in March of 2032, we start seeing the androids, your Devilas, your Popolas, the people who kind of keep the system moving.
Yeah, because if everybody's turned into a soul, you gotta have someone around to make sure all the souls go back to their vessels.
So the vessels aren't the robots?
No. Well, they're a kind of robot, but they're not.
Okay.
They're not a robot in the same way that Devla and Popola are robots, though.
Okay.
Anyway, at this point, you say the replicants are basically sent to go fight Legion, and the Gestalts are put to sleep, and basically at this point, humanity thinks that they have kind of made it. They've developed the system, they've got soldiers that can't be infected. Things look okay.
Of the darkness. Lure them to the light.
Which means that now we have to undo the project. Enter Grimoire Noir.
The leader.
So, using multiple world technology, the idea is that they want to embed a Gestalt in a book-like vessel. There are 13 sealing books, beginning with Grimoire Noir and Vice, and including Brubrum and a couple, and you know, we encounter a few of them, but there are 13 of them altogether.
Just pick out 13 or 10 random German colors, and there you go. You've probably named them all.
Okay.
So essentially, what happens is that when Grimoire Noir and Grimoire Vice are combined, well, when their powers are used simultaneously, it forcibly reinserts all the Gestalts into their corresponding replicants. So the idea is that they create these sealing books, and then once Legion and the White Chlorination Syndrome has been finally totally wiped out, they use their powers, and everybody's soul goes back to their body, and we're back to normal. Normal as we can be, anyway.
Ain't no turning back now.
However, this is the point at which we start talking about losing control.
All we know is the thrill of
So in 2049, NieR is Gestalt. And in 2053, they find out that, hey, if you go too long without being in your original body, you start to lose your self-awareness and you start to go berserk. They call them...
Sorry, I just want to interject and say I think this timeline specifically applies to NieR Replicant, the younger brother NieR.
Oh, you're kidding.
Because for whatever reason, NieR, Dad NieR and Brother NieR happen at different times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the years that matter to us are the same, but yeah, Father NieR is Gestaltized in 2049, Brother NieR in 2053. Otherwise, the timeline's identical.
Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to interject with that. In case anyone goes back to the first video or whatever and calls bullshit on this timeline.
Nobody will do that. And if you are considering doing that, I hate you. You are the worst kind of person. Shut up.
Anyway, on with it.
Anyway, yeah, so they find out that if they call them relapse shades, they're shade, or relapse gestalts, it's shades. They essentially find out that if you go too long without being in your body, you become a shade.
No. Kaine!
Of course, the World Purification Organization
Get back.
tries to, you know, cause... They're looking for a solution to this. And their method is that they start providing clones of Grimoire Noir to poor people.
Kaine!
And, well, that goes about as well as you would expect it to. So, essentially, what happens with NieR... So, yeah, essentially what happens from there is that NieR... So NieR in 2049 NieR, he's been living in poverty, and he essentially gets tricked into thinking that Yona's sickness can be cured. So he joins the experiment, he sees all the relapses, and then he's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Come back!
So at that point, they run and they hide in the supermarket, and that's where we join them.
Check is required against this foe.
Huh.
NieR not seeing And then, essentially, what happens is that after that whole situation, NieR has basically no way out, so he offers himself up for being gestaltized, and he becomes the first self-aware, maintaining Gestalt.
I couldn't hold it back.
So he is one of the few that is able to maintain
Be together,
his sense of identity basically indefinitely.
As many times
Despite not having his body.
Yeah.
Yes.
we're gonna get
This is how he was like self-aware, like towards the end, even in the final boss of this game.
keep going because of you. I'm weak and sad.
As part of that, though, Yona also gets gestaltized, and she begins to relapse immediately.
Yeah, remember when she touched the book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She touched the book for a cookie.
She touched the book for a cookie, except it also immediately turned her into a shade, and yeah. This tale's not going happy places. I don't know if you could tell.
Really?
And then, so essentially, after that all happens, the Hamelin organization, which is they're this big religious, they're the ones responsible for a lot of the Gestalt research. They contact NieR and basically tell him that in 1,000 years, the sickness will be gone, so we can put her to sleep. So what they do is they put Yona into cryogenic sleep. In exchange for that, though, they demand Maso from NieR, who they said since he's a self-aware Gestalt. By them taking his Maso, they can use that to keep all the other Gestalts sane.
Okay.
Anyway, from there, things kind of go according to plan, right up for about 700 years. So we're going from 2049 all the way up to 2764. And now we have a problem. Because replicants are starting to develop sentience.
Ah, the singularity.